Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn something about the list functions. So we are going to learn like 3 to 4 list functions in this tutorial, and in the previous tutorial what we have learned, they were actually called as the list operations, and these are actually list functions. So we already have the list which we have created in the previous lecture. So if you have not created this list, then I would recommend you to go ahead and create this list for you. Now, once you have created the list and you have this list with you, let's learn about the first list function, which is called as the append. So what append essentially does is that it allows us to add a new item to our list. So at the 0th position we have apple, at first position we have mango, at second we have peach, and at third position of the list fruits we have orange. Now what if you actually want to add another item to your fruits? So in that case, what you simply need to do is that first you need to type in the list to which you want to add items. So you could type fruits, give a dot operator, and type in append. So what append essentially does is that it takes the item which we type in here, and it is going to take that item and add it to the list which we have mentioned right here. So in double quotes we specify a new fruit, let's say banana. So we type in banana over here, and in order to make sure that you have added this item to the list, we simply go ahead and print out the item. So we print out fruits here, and if you save the code and if you run this thing, as you could see, now we also have banana to the list right over here. So this was the first list function which we have learned, which is nothing but the append function, which essentially allows you to append a new item to your list or add a new item to your list. Now if you again go ahead and let's say you append a new item to the fruits and you want to add another item to the fruits, so you could simply type in fruits dot append, and you could add in a new fruit over here, and you could give it some random value, and if you save the code and if you run the code again, as you could see, the next fruit is going to get added right after banana. So that is how the append function works, which allows you to basically keep on adding items to your list. So the next function which we are going to learn is going to be the function which allows you to calculate the length of your list. So let's say your fruits list actually has a bunch of fruits. Now you could easily go ahead and say that there are actually 4 fruits in the fruit list, but what if you actually have a very huge list? So in that case, you need some function to keep track of the number of items in your list. So the function which we are going to use to calculate the number of items in your list is called as the Len function, which stands for the length function. So what you could do is that if you want to print out the length of your list, you could simply type in print, and in this print you could use the length function, which is len, and after len in brackets you need to specify for which list you actually want to calculate the length. So we want the length of the fruits list, so I'm going to simply type in fruits here. So if you save the code and if you actually run it, as you could see, you got the result as 4, because right now you only have 4 fruits in your list. Now after the len function, let's go ahead and learn a new function which is called as insert function. So insert function is somewhat similar to the append function, but the insert function allows you to insert a particular item at a particular position. So in case of append, when you append some item to your list, that item actually gets added to the end of the list. But in case of insert actually allows you to place a particular item at a particular position. So let's say you want to insert a value into fruits, so you could type fruits dot insert, and the first thing you need to specify over here is actually the position. So let's say at position number 1 you want to insert a new fruit, so we type 1 comma, and you need to specify the item which you want to place at that position. So let's say we want to place a banana, so we type in banana over here. So what this thing is going to do is that it is going to take banana and it is going to place it at a position which is 1. Actually we need to print out the list so that we could identify that this is actually placed at position 1. So I'm going to print out the fruits value. So if you save the code and run the code, as you could see, at 0th position we have apple, and now at first position instead of mango we have banana right over here. So that is how you use the insert function to basically insert a particular value in the lists at a particular position. So first you need to specify the index location where you actually want to place a value. Then you actually mention the value which you want to place. Now the next function which we are going to learn here is called as the index function. So what the index function essentially does is that it returns you the index value of a particular item in your list. So for example, let's say you want to identify at which position is peach present in your list. So for that you could simply type in print, and you could type in your list name, which is fruits.index, and here inside the index you could actually pass in the item for which you want the index. So we want the index of peach here, so I'm going to mention peach here, and when I save the code and when I run this code, as you could see, I got the value as 2 because peach is actually stored at the second position. So this is the 0th position, this is the first position, and this thing right here is the second position. So that is how you could use the index function to determine at which particular value the particular item in the list is present. Now if you change this peach to orange, and if you try to execute this code now, as you could see, you will get a value of 3 because orange is actually stored at the 3rd position in the fruits list. So that's it for this lecture, and I hope you guys actually understood the list functions. So we have discussed 4 list functions in this tutorial. The first list function was actually the append function, which allows you to add an item at the end of the list. The next function which we have learned is basically the len function or the length function, which allows you to calculate the length of your list. The next function which we have learned was basically the insert function, which allows you to insert a particular value in your list. And the final one was the index function, which actually helps you to determine the index of a particular item in your list. So thank you very much for watching this lecture, and I'll see you guys in the next lecture. Thank you.